What up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of our SoulCast. We got my man Dino Rock from Cypher Estate, the illest b-boy right now, in my opinion. I've been training with him for a long time, since I was like around 10 years old. I remember watching these guys. He used to get down with the crew, or it still does, right? Cypher City Kings.
Every now and then, maybe holidays and stuff. But
Nice.
yeah, what's up, everybody? Not illest, just I just love the dance, love the art. Have fun. I love it. It's fun. And
Right here we got John B. Spasmatic in the building as well. And Mr. Dino, I got a question for you, dog. So one thing that we put emphasis on, at least on our previous podcast, was actually how important authenticity is, ethics are, and the embodiment of the entire hip-hop culture, and knowing you and your ways, training methods. What would you say to that? What would you say to that?
Oh man.
As far as what you do for training,
Okay.
how do you apply
Yeah.
that?
So I basically, what I do is because I'm inspired by a lot of different things. And I could just go down the list, but one, I would say a lot of it has a lot to do with I would say like a lot of Eastern philosophy and Buddhism. So I kind of like relate a lot to martial artists and how martial artists train. And because ultimately with martial arts and in a street fight, you have to be ready at that moment and be able to react. So as when I break, if I throw down, I want to be able to have the same mentality when I go down, whether it's in a cypher or battle, where I could just be ready. And ultimately, I want it to be where I don't have to be so. It's not so much a mental process for me when I'm going out. It's kind of just more of like I'm just training myself to react and be a lot more free in the moment. With the music, movement, creating opportunities in the flow. So yeah, basically that's kind of like part of the philosophy of my training method.
Nice.
Do you think that plays a part of hip hop? I'm sorry. What's got?
I don't know. You
Is
get
it-
it. No. So because probably some viewers watching probably don't understand like what flow is in the b-boy mentality. So you want to break that down for us, like what does it mean for a b-boy to have flow?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, actually, I understand flow, maybe in a bit of different terms, but maybe the same. But basically, there's this thing called flow state, and it's a state of meditation. So once you enter your flow state, it's kind of this euphoric feeling, like you're feeling a lot more free in the moment.
Nice.
And it's really having to zone out. You have to really zone, or actually I would say zone in. You have to zone in to the moment and zone everything else out. Which is very if you're used to meditation, you're kind of used to that, like that moment of just like,
Right.
wow, like complete
Silence.
focus. Yeah, silence, focus. So as a b-boy, I think when you're truly flowing, it shows when you're mentally free and fluid, so I think it's like a physical translation of that.
You know what's crazy about the whole thing of you were mentioning meditation? I think a lot of people are pretending to think of meditation as if it's like there's something that you up or just sit in the corner, you put
No,
your hands
yeah.
like this, and then you up and just like start humming and
Right.
everything like that. But there's different forms of meditation, of course. But better yet than up, we're talking about the different forms of meditation. Let's just talk about the prerequisites to even acquire the discipline or even the skill set to even try to even start meditating. So what are some of the things that you've actually gone through for you to even get to the point where you can even begin to get into that meditative state? Because that takes a lot.
Yeah. I like this question a lot, because I think growing up, especially when I was a kid, I would say I was pretty I think I was pretty self-conscious about a lot of things. Like had like a lot of anxiety, so a lot of it has to do like that moment when kind of those times where you have a really loud voice and it's just like so loud that it's kind of like almost judgmental to a point where it's like, all right, how do I shut that down, you know? But it's really like it kind of goes back to like keeping yourself busy, and then I kind of broke that down a little more. Okay, what is discipline? Discipline could be either like making sure you're focusing on your breathing, or maybe you're focusing on something like movement. Okay, so I kind of translate it to like if I'm drilling, there's a certain point with drills that, you know, I forget how much I've actually done. You know, it might have been like 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours might have passed. I'm like, holy crap! Like,
Do you also forget to like take and everything like that too? Like when you're doing it?
yeah, I mean,
it's like a little lost in translation
Am
sometimes.
I really Dino Rock right now? Who am I?
Do you ever actually like wig out like that? Like where you actually like who do I know who I am?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
no,
start like
it's,
freaking out. Your fingers start like moving in slow motion, like
Yeah.
Bruce Lee and
yeah.
I'm now. I was just like,
No, it's actually a really good question, because it like I said, it's like almost euphoric when you, it's like the beauty of discipline, and it actually took me a long time to realize what that really felt like, but once you're there, once you get to it, it's almost like, wow, like this is one of the best feelings ever, because you start becoming a little like the feelings of let's say if you tend to have like myself, you know, I used to grow up feeling just really anxious about a lot of stuff. So then, like through the process of like just training or discipline, it kind of brings out a little more, I think, positive, you know, positive outlooks,
more positive
positivity.
thoughts.
Yeah, positive thoughts, and really, yeah, just like getting really deep into like just the mental state, and just like, you know, thinking about the, you know, the bigger things in life.
To actually overcome anxiety is an incredible feat. I'm not too sure if you're saying that you've overcome anxiety, but you're saying that these processes have helped you at least take the steps of overcoming anxiety.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like an innate thing? Is that a nature versus nurture thing for you, or what exactly is it? What would you categorize your anxious or your anxiety moments like?
That's a good question. I mean, it kind of almost runs in my family, I feel like, just because, you know, like it was like, as you know, just being young and having everything not always not everything like solid. You have like, it was always kind of growing up, and actually, let me go back, because, you know, like my father, he was very like it was interesting growing up with him, because he was very like, he was very fluid with the way he like lived his life. He was very like, he always freestyled, like he was winged everything almost. I mean, he worked, and he always had like some sort of a plan, but I was like, wow, he always like figured something out on the spot, you know. But sometimes it wouldn't always be, you know, in the I don't know how to say it, like it was always a lot of uncertainty at that point. So I think when I was like I think one of these days, like I was reflecting on that and seeing like, all right, how can I like take that information and like, you know, like apply it to my life, and I'm like totally wait, what was I saying? Okay. So like,
yeah. I mean, I was like listening. I was going. I'm like full blown focused right now. I'm just like, keep going.
Okay, so what I was gonna say, yeah. So, yeah, this is where training comes in. So, and also has to do with research, studying, and actually making sure you're disciplined, and just being able to make sure that you're ready at any situation, you know.
So basically, what I got from that was that you had your influence, and basically what I was asking you was your mental state of which your anxiety of resonated or whatever
right.
whatever brought it into existence. Was it nature or was it nurture? Was it nurtured into you, or were you
right.
or were you born with it? And basically, it sounds like you are going in the direction of nurture, because I guess I wouldn't say the instability of your father, because it sounded like he always had a plan. So then that means your mother was the planner. Your mother was the planner, and your father was the pretty much winging it.
Yeah. So actually, what it was my mom was like the one to hold it down for the fam, so she like was the one to keep everything stable, while I think my father was more of like a risk taker. Like he was he was the one willing to take risk. I mean, it could have gone either direction, but it was kind of like that's kind of what I grew up with. Just kind of
Nice.
That and so where exactly would you say that your anxiety just because we're on the subject of anxiety, stop me if it's pushing a little bit too far.
Mm-hmm.
Where exactly did your anxiety come from? Because it sounded like you had a big solidarity within your household as far as your mom and your dad, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Was
so
it like friends or associates or people like bullying, anything like that upper kind of got you in a state of like not really of uncertainty.
that's like I think that's like a question of I think I'm still going through that journey of trying to just like kind of like get a little more rooted on.
And that's just
who I
fine.
am. And I think
That's scary.
a lot of people are,
Especially
because
if something's wrong with you,
yeah,
or if there's something going on with you that you have no idea what it is and you don't know how to control it, then
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult, especially if nobody can give you the answer. So of course you're gonna be still on that journey.
yeah, and yeah, it's like I think goes back to psychological well-being, and I guess it's a topic that doesn't really get like discussed about too much, but
Right.
I've become to like I've become more comfortable to talk about like, all right, this is kind of what I figured, what I've gone through in the past, or like where I'm at now, and it's a journey. I think we're all trying to uncover more of like who we really are as like people.
Do you mind if I ask you your age?
Yeah, I'm 28. I'm turning
You're 28. You're
Yeah.
28, and you're already started the process of actually like meditating, going on your own personal journey. I remember I remember reading a book. It was a little while ago. It was talking about every person has to take their own personal journey,
right.
and each even when you're coupled with somebody, doesn't mean that you're gonna be with that person for a while. Even brother, sister, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, so on and so forth. But at some given point, you have to go on your own journey. It kind of like sounds like you're already starting to head down that path, and from at least what it seems to me, it's
Right.
pretty decent. It's a
Definitely.
pretty decent age that you can actually like start at, because you wouldn't want to be going through this at like 35, 40, 45, just trying to figure it out, or maybe not even go on it at all. So
Right.
for all of the viewers out there that is checking into this video cast, maybe meditation is a thing for you. Obviously Dino's up here going through the process. He's up here trying to figure it out. And since we're on topic of meditation, what are the steps that you took for meditation that you that kind of got you in your process?
Oh man.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's start it fairly simple. What did you think that you had to cut out of your life to add to the meditative aspect of your life?
Wow. Okay. Cool. All right. I like this. I like this
Yeah.
podcast. And so, by the way, I'm still. It's like
Used to.
7. I'm still waking up. But
It's all right, man.
So if like the first few minutes were kind of like hard to catch, let me. I'm waking up in the process. So entering my.
He's entering his meditative state.
Yeah, I'm
He's
entering the
getting-
cipher state.
Oh,
it's true. No, because it's funny. Like
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah. Let me go back to that. Cause,
He had to get hit with that Latin soul real quick though.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyway, go ahead, my man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I had to cut I feel like it's a process, and it's just kind of acknowledging what your habits are, and like kind of what's a good habit, what's a healthy habit, what's an unhealthy habit. And yeah, no one's perfect. I'll admit, I wasn't perfect either. But what I am is also I'm proactive. Like, I like to learn how to improve always, and I believe everyone else can improve as individuals. So for me, materialism, cutting out all the materialistic things, like, and realizing how unimportant they are when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Focusing on like relationships with your peoples as opposed to let's say like, outlandish ideas, So
What would you consider to be an outlandish idea?
I would say like I would say something of grandeurism, like oh, I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be like the greatest Pokemon trainer and capture all these like innocent Pokemon.
You know what? You may be a really cool guy, but you could be a sometimes. Cause guess what? I got Pokemon Go on
just
my
ruined
phone.
his dreams, bro.
And so,
Hey,
dog, like I can get all the damn Pokemon if I really
Dreams.
want to. So,
Yeah, you know what?
like,
You know what?
And I got video games.
And
What-
it hasn't
what
even
the
and it hasn't
Oh.
hit the hour, bro, and he just crushed
I
your
know,
dreams.
right? Just you know what?
But
This
has he
podcast
ever-
is over.
This has,
We're
this
done.
has
We're
became
done. Cut it.
this is now the Cypher State podcast.
Has he ever stopped to like think like, well, maybe like the the legendary Pokemon are fighting back so hard because they want to stay free in the open and not be confined to like a small. Like,
He's hitting
ball.
them hard. Oh,
You know?
kill him. My bad. Nah, I look like the like, you know. He just flipped it on me real quick.
oh man.
All right, it's all good. Okay, I'm a. Guess
No,
what,
I'm
everybody? All right, so I catch Pokemon and I keep them in balls.
I'm just kidding. I don't have anything against anyone playing Pokemon. I grew up. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. But, yeah. I mean, I don't play anymore, but when I was younger.
No. But back, you were saying we digress so much. I'm sorry. Back to you, said grandeur.
Yeah.
So like like ideas of I'm gonna be a gazillionaire and I'm gonna make all the money in the world without actually thinking about giving back, so on and so forth, like stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think growing up when I was trying to figure things out, like I may have like fallen into like feelings of that when I was younger, thinking that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like wanting to be the best or wanting to be like on the top, and like you kind of take that and I'll just take Wall Street for example, like folks who make like crazy amounts of money, and it doesn't I'm not saying anything against anyone who's like really on their hustle, but I think I was watching something the other day about like someone who was really focused on their like and how much they can like really generate, but then in some like all of the folks that were investing in that particular stock or whatever, it was just like it wasn't really beneficial for the folks, I think, on the other end of the on the other end of
whatever positive there is going to be an equal or opposite negative.
yes
basically,
extremes.
You gotta always have that balance.
There is gonna so where one person loses, there's always going to be a winner. So when you got first place, you're going to have second place. You got good, you're going to have evil.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like if there's a way where like like a lot of folks can like make it out where we're all like benefiting from the situation. Like I always think that's like the best situation.
It is.
Yeah.
It very much is, and I think a lot of people don't actually know how to visualize a winning situation.
And yeah, some people don't think you can, but I at this point I really feel like we all can. You know what I mean?
It takes a lot. It takes a lot more effort,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot more sacrifice. And I think after a certain amount of
It's just that will, if you're willing to sacrifice and willing to.
Yeah.
and
yeah.
that and all is a part of growing up as well. Because if I ever sacrificed
And in due time.
my entire life, or like say I was like 30 and I sacrificed my entire life for someone else, and finally at 31 I'm catching a break and I'm getting everything I want. I think I'm probably not in the idea of sacrificing anymore, because like now I'm getting everything I want. I've went through 30 years of sacrificing. Now I'm getting the 1 year that I don't that I get everything I want. There's no way in hell I'm gonna try to sacrifice for anybody else's well-being.
You know what? Yeah, and
that gets difficult.
Yeah, and that's really like the balance. Yeah, I think it's just it sounds like the balance of life too. Like you're here at one point, and then you're over here, so you never know. Like life's always like changing. It's crazy. It's never. Every day is never the same. Really.
That's why I really like that. That Batman quote. What's got you the what was it? Harvey Dent. What's got you either die a hero or you live long enough.
Live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Holy shit! Get this a Batman mask.
Actually, it's you gotta burn. No.
It was Harvey Dent. It was Harvey Dent
they're
at
having a
first, and then it was Batman at the end who quoted Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
So and then I killed those people.
It's like a dichotomy.
So like it's and that's actually an interesting concept when you think about it as well. is I'm not going there. That's gonna.
That's gonna take.
No,
Yeah,
no, I'm not going there. I'm not going
right?
there.
We could,
Hell
yeah.
no, I'm not going there.
That's another podcast, guys.
No, let's get up. We always gotta do another podcast.
Well, but like a side question to think
that-
about, and we'll jump back, is like, is Batman really the hero, or is he really the villain at this point?
Right.
Ooh.
Exactly.
So, I mean, he wants you to think
That's
that
the question
he's
for
the
you
villain.
guys.
Yeah.
The answer is up to you. You can hit us the answer on the comments, and we'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
Nah.
And if you're right, then you might win something. If you're wrong,
Dang.
you might not win something.
Man,
Either
he's
way.
evil.
I hope this doesn't turn out to be like too nerdy. Like my segment is like
No,
too nerdy.
no. I mean, even if it is, like, do you, man? Like, we don't.
Yeah,
give
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nah, yeah, I am. Yeah, we're gonna talk Batman, Pokemon.
What was it? But moving back into the whole
man.
meditative state and actually like and training yourself. You said materialism was one of the things that you ended up cutting out of your life. Would you say that materialism is there's still aspects of materialism still existing in your life, or would you say that you can kind of that you like there's like none left?
Yeah, it's like cause it's never like I think when it's like when you start working on yourself, it's not always perfect. So like, yeah, I might want like, I might want to get like some really fancy mac and cheese one day, you know, but I don't have to. But it's like, dang, that's
your idea of materialism.
Kidding.
My problems are all.
Or sneakers. Sneakers. I mean, there's a thing like
That's a b-boy
Yeah,
thing,
it's a
dog,
b-boy
man. That's a
thing.
hip hop thing.
Yeah,
like, you
it's like-
gotta have your niche.
this is true because like for like if you apply it to like someone who collects weapons, like if you're a swordsman,
exactly.
you'll like
you will collect swords, or if you're
Yeah,
a
collect swords.
weaponsmith, you
And
will collect
collect weapons.
weapons.
yeah, you have a
So-
swordsmith or a sneakers smith, or something like that. I don't know.
You know what?
Collect
I
those
wouldn't
sneakers.
actually mind up here having like starting cut the podcast. No, they can't hear this. I wouldn't mind up here actually having. No, don't cut it for real. Anyway, no. I wouldn't actually mind having a brand called Sneakersmith. It's actually kind of tight.
Oh
Sell
yeah,
shoes
yeah,
on the side.
Kicksmith.
yeah, like weapon of choice type thing.
That'd be
So,
tight.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
that idea?
sneakers are everything. I think
No one
for sure.
take that idea. It is patent right here.
Sneakers
You
Smith.
will get sued. I'm just saying.
We stole it from Dino. You can't steal it from us.
Oh man. Oh, but yeah, going back to that. Yeah, I think materialism, grandeurism, those all tied to ego, and I just kind of see it as a way of kind of making sure it's kind of a way of putting oneself in check and acknowledging that you do have an ego. I'm not saying I'm not saying that like I have it all figured out, because I don't. But I just acknowledge it now, and now I'm more like, okay, what actually matters, and I really to like not kind of seeing the world necessarily just from my perspective, and obviously that's what it is at the end of the day, but acknowledging that we're all like different energies, sharing the same
Space,
space,
and so on,
universe,
and everything.
yeah,
That's I like the fact that he ever said that we're all energy, because
Yeah,
that's exactly
yeah.
what we are.
Exactly.
This is nothing but a shell. This is nothing.
Yeah, true.
This is what we are. Is nothing but beings locked in spiritual beings locked into a physical form.
So
But
true.
I'm
yeah.
not going
Right.
to go into that either, because that's a whole nother thing.
That's when Dino Rock comes back onto the
Yeah, that's when he
Part
comes
two.
back.
Yeah,
We
part
just
2,
gonna have, like, a
Batman. Part 3,
Well,
energies on the spiritual
before we uppercut to a break, I want to at least cover this aspect of it, and this could be a yes or no and a couple sentences if you want, and then we can come back into it and segue back into it. Part 2 of you starting your meditative process. Would you say that what you eat affected your
Yes.
process?
Yes. That's a really good topic. And, okay. Yeah. So, actually, when it comes to food, nutrition, diet, like, what you eat affects everything, it affects your energy, because, something I related to is the process of something, let's say, like, from the process of, let's say, like, you take an animal, okay? Like, if the animal feels fear, if it had to feel fear upon its death in order to get to, the self, and then to your energy, like I kind of see it as like, okay, that energy is like some of the energy must, like, because if we're energy, that energy must transfer somehow. But
carbonates and proteins and everything is nothing but energy.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
It keeps the body fueled. So
Yeah.
naturally, even if what you're saying is just like hogwash,
Right.
technically, to some degree,
Right.
what you're saying has some correlation.
Yeah, and this is all like philosophy and like speculation, not so much
Facts.
facts. It's not facts. It's just kind of like if you were to kind of like think about energy and then kind of see what you're bringing to your body. So for me, while I'm very conscious about what I'm eating. So if I'm eating bad, I'm mindful of it. Like, and there's a certain situation that had to get me there, whether it's like financial or like, man, I don't have enough money to pay for my own lunch or dinner, but someone made me this food, and like, then that there's a certain exception where it's like, okay, like, for example, when you go to someone's house, and then you could go to a different country, for example, and I've had to do that, where for example in the Philippines, you had to because they have like, if you choose not to eat their food, it's really like a slap in the face. It's like,
it's a sign of disrespect.
and I think for a lot of us, like black and brown folk, I think we can relate to that, because a lot of the time, it's not like, oh, like we have the dough to just kind of like,
right,
just make whatever you want. It's not like that. You can't be picky in certain places. So growing up, it was like that for me, where it was like, I didn't necessarily have like a choice for what I was able to eat. But now, when I'm able to make a little more of a decision, there was points where I would experiment with like, okay, I agree with the philosophy, for example, of like raw foods, like having a raw food diet, and that was probably like the most interesting phase of my life, because I had like strangely a lot of energy during those years, and like I had just a lot of energy. I was like I was feeling a lot better. I was feeling a lot better. Now there's times where
feeling better.
So I would like
give us an example.
So for an example of that feeling is, I was more productive. So, and I always wanted to do stuff, and there was like less tension or anxiety getting into certain like just getting into the flow of things, like it was more of like it was like a more positive feeling.
Name a couple foods that you actually ate, a couple raw foods that you actually ate that kind of facilitated that energy. Yeah,
so like my friend, actually, Joe, his name's Joe Kamimura. He's actually the first dude that kind of got me into breaking as well, or just the whole hip hop thing. He was a writer. So he got me onto like different types of like different plants. So like there was one particular time where like he made a raw pie, non-baked. So the crust was made out of nuts, and then the center was made out of like. Come on. What? Sneeze. All right. Yeah. So the crust, was made out of all that, and then the center was made out of like fruits, and what you do is you would freeze it, but he would kind of blend it. So it was more of like, instead of cooking your food, you would prepare your food, and it was all raw. It was fresh. That's an example of a recipe, but like salad, spinach, not cooking your food, and just kind of making sure that it's like avocados, carrots,
which is another thing I actually want to get into once we come back from break. Let's take a break from right now and come back into actually talking about the type of foods that you are mentioning, and then whether or not you should actually trust some of those foods or not.
Yeah.
And even including the ones that you don't eat and the ones that you do eat, whether you should still trust them or not, because that's going to help with whatever process you're ever going through with your meditative state. But once again, we'll be right back. Yo, what's good, everyone? John B here. And if you enjoyed the video podcast, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We have part 2 of this interview coming up in the next couple of days, so make sure you hit that bell button so you can receive the notifications of all our material we got lined up for you. Mad love to everyone that made this video podcast possible, and please check out some of their work. They are amazing artists and people. See you guys in a couple of days. Peace.
Now that's hip hop.
Ooh, Papi, you good.